An outpouring of pent-up frustration by Canadians of color, born in part of a fraught and fractured history between law enforcement and Indigenous populations.
We have lived under these intolerable conditions for how many years? Nearly 400 years.
Rallying for justice in support of Regis Korchinski-Paquette.
And between April and June, Canadian police shot and killed 6 Indigenous people, including a woman killed during a quote-unquote wellness check. Among those marching for change, it's yet another example of justice denied. Over 3 decades, more than 400 Indigenous people have died in police custody, but no officer has ever been convicted. And so today, the march continues.
From the 19th century until 1996, nearly 150,000 Indigenous children were forcibly separated from their homes in government-funded residential schools. They were mostly run by the Catholic Church.
Although Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has demanded apologies for the graves of the Indigenous found and acknowledged systemic racism plaguing society's progression, it still remains a catastrophic mainstay for many, particularly the Black and Indigenous populations north of the border. Only 5% of the population is Indigenous people, and they make up about a third of the prison population. Last November, the Globe and Mail published an analysis that showed that Indigenous people made up a third of deaths in police custody. Despite one commissioner's initial denial and clumsy about-face on the issue of systemic racism within the RCMP, a recent poll suggested that 75% of Canadians believe there is systemic racism within the country's national police force. Indigenous peoples in Canada are experiencing the highest levels of poverty. Per Poverty Institute, a shocking 1 in 4 Indigenous peoples are living in poverty, and 4 in 10 or 40% of Canada's Indigenous children live in poverty. The Global Citizen reported Canada has been failing its Indigenous citizens by making false promises to clean up toxic drinking water. Canada is one of the most water-rich countries in the world. Toronto, the largest city in the country of Canada, is viewed as the most diverse in the entire world, microcosmic as the hometown Toronto Raptors, which proudly displays 10 flags at the team's practice facility, each representing the historic diversity of the squad from Canada, St. Lucia, Germany, Ukraine, Nigeria, Japan, Britain, Cameroon, Slovenia, and the United States. This roster is the most diverse the NBA has ever seen. More importantly, they know how to give back. Enter Fred VanVleet, the undrafted point guard out of Wichita State who helped Toronto win their first ever NBA championship over the Golden State Warriors in 2019. In an announcement this week, he launched the Fred VanVleet Scholarship, which will go to a Black or Indigenous student in the University of Toronto's Rotman Commerce program based on financial need. Also included mentorship from VanVleet himself.
Something that I'm very passionate about. Which is education and, a 4-year degree and just that experience of going to school and learning about yourself and learning about the world.
The Fred VanVleet Scholarship will provide 4 years of tuition and books based on financial need with preference to a student focused on management.
I think it's just important and it's even more important to shine light on, people that may not get the look. It probably was inspired throughout the last 2 years of all the social injustice that was going on around the world, and some of these conversations started and we ended up on a scholarship.
This is to create possibility and light for those who have faced bias, who haven't had the same chances as others, VanVleet said in a statement issued Monday by the Raptors. It's important to provide opportunities to those whose opportunity usually ignores or works against or excludes. Academia hasn't traditionally been an inclusive place for many of us, and so it's important to make space specifically for people who want to learn, but who are facing barriers that others do not.
just important to give back. Just a place that I call my home that has accepted me and my family with open arms from day one. So just a part of that, one to give back and be present, in the community.
This is just the latest of many community initiatives for VanVleet. This year, he started the Bet on Yourself podcast, focused on local Black, Indigenous, and other entrepreneurs of color, along with financial advisor Derek Folk. The NBA champ has also partnered with DoorDash and Uninterrupted Canada to launch a docuseries highlighting restaurants and small business owners across Canada. Students wanting to be considered for the award must apply to Rotman Commerce and complete an awards profile, as you can see with the link below.